What's good, family? Lovely Soul Empress here. What's good, Copenhagen? I'm going to give you guys a second. Let everybody come on in. We're going to talk about some serious stuff today. What's good, Sugar Plum? As you come in, if you could hit the like button, it would be greatly appreciated. Okay, seeing if I need any of these decks. Let's go with this. Okay, family. What's good, Tamila? So we're going to talk about some things today. And, this could be, you was just listening to the weekly. That's what's good. I feel like, hold on, something's going on here. Give me 1 second, because I like to have some music going in the background. We're going to talk about trauma and, the inner child. Okay? So I was doing tomorrow's daily this morning. And a song came through for tomorrow's daily in a whole other way, for a whole other purpose. And after I finished the daily, I kept hearing the song. So I knew that there was like a secondary message. And as the morning progressed, it started to sharpen. And so basically, Spirit wanted me to talk about trauma and the inner child. And this could be a triggering conversation for all of us. In many ways, we could have different traumas. We could have different ways that we're triggered by those traumas. We may look at them differently. Okay, what's good, BJ? So I just kind of want you to, take care while you listen to this message and take away from it what will help you, because we might individually need different things, okay? So before we get started, let's light an incense, clear the energy, light some Palo Santo, and prepare ourselves to see what Spirit wants to say, because I'm not really 100% sure, okay? But the song that came through was "Memories Don't Live Like People Do. They'll always be with you, whether things are good or bad. These are the memories that we have," right? And some memories are good, and some memories not so much. Sometimes there's people in our lives, they could have been family members or whatever their relation to us was. And we can have mixed memories, some that are good and some that are bad. And this could taint how you look at your trauma or how you look at your healing. So I'm just going to leave that there for a moment. We're going to clear this energy, and then we're going to see what Spirit has to say about it. Now, I do want to preface this by saying that, you know, in the thumbnail, the image that came up that I found was a masculine. And I just want to say that the masculine and in the feminine, what's good, Jennifer LaRoe? We may approach trauma and healing and the inner child in you know, drastically different ways. Okay, so let me just start off by saying that. But I feel like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start with the shadow. In the shadows. Because I feel like in the shadow is where the trauma lives, right? And I feel like the reason why the trauma lives in the shadows is because when the inner child, what's good, Nancy B? When the inner child gets to a point where they have encountered some level of trauma, once the child cannot process it, I feel like that's when the inner child, the shadow comes in, almost like switching places with the child. So that's why, you know, I say that the shadow is the one that bears the lashes, right? Okay, let me just see what they're gonna pull out. Can you show me about this inner trauma, Spirit? About the inner child and trauma. Can you show me, Spirit? I fantasize about you. I feel like when you have gone through some type of trauma, whether this is, you know, physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, emotional neglect, and there's so many faces that could come in, that the inner child in you, once you get to a certain age, and maybe even as a child, but especially as you get older, you know, you start to, especially like when you're in your 20s or whatever, there's something that gets activated in you that you may think about it a lot in the way that you would have wished you reacted. Fantasizing about the way you wish you could have reacted. Right? So there's, you know, fight or flight and freeze, right? So it's like, you know, you can either fight, you could run, or you could feel frozen when, as the inner child is experiencing trauma. And often I feel like no matter what stance you take or how you may have faced your individual trauma, there's a part of us that's always going to fantasize about the shoulda, woulda, coulda. Okay? And before I even pulled this card, I was actually going to go in a different direction. And before I pull another, I'm going to make this point. There was a woman in the 80s. I forget her name. I think it was like Penny or something like that. And she was a reoccurring guest of Oprah's. Okay? This woman had endured, as a small child, what most would consider extreme child abuse in many different forms, like extreme child abuse. And because she had experienced this, and you could probably look it up on the internet and her name would probably come up. because of the extreme child abuse that she had endured at a very young age. Okay, she wasn't a teenager or anything. I think it still continued into her teenage years, but you know, the precipice, she was very little. And basically her personality had split. But it didn't just split once. Like she had like something like 90 personalities that they, you know, discovered over time. And there's like a name for it, you know, dissociative personality disorder. Don't quote me. You know, you guys can look it up, right? But basically the diagnosis of that was that some people, a lot of people who end up having trauma that was earlier than 5 years old. No, it wasn't schizophrenia. Children that have a lot of trauma under 5 years old, their personality can split. Okay? And basically the explanation was, you remember her? Exactly, Shamika. What's good? I feel like, you know, they were talking about who she had in, you know, in her personalities. And she had like one guy that was like, you know, really mean. And then she had an older woman. And then, you know, she had all these people. And basically the explanation of this disorder was that these small children couldn't bear the trauma. And yeah, it's like multiple personality disorder, but they don't call it that anymore. They call it something else. What happens is that, you know, the inner child can't handle it. So they create like an alternate, and their main persona is not there. So it's like the alter takes the abuse. This is why many people, even if they have abuse later, they don't remember, because it's like somebody else stepped in. So I feel like if you have that, you know, and this cannot even be abuse, right? Right? Somebody could pass, but it could have been at you know, at a time in your life as a child or whatever, where it causes like a lot of pain. Yeah, dissociative identity. There you go, Tamila. I knew they changed the name to something. But basically, you know, it's kind of like the mind or the soul protecting you, right? And so I feel like as you progress in your life, in your soul path, in your healing, that there's many reasons why you would look back. Wow. That you would look back and maybe go through the shoulda, woulda, couldas. Now, at the bottom of the deck, you got, I scared myself that day. Okay? And it feels like for some of you, this could have been, you know, an adverse reaction. For some people, you know, they react, you know, in an outwardly aggressive way. Some others suppress it and are frozen. And, you know, there's so many things that you could look and reflect of yourself and be like, why did I respond that way? Or why didn't I respond? There's so much there, right? And then you got, in that moment, I didn't care. And when I look at this card, I feel like this is more the shadow, like when the shadow stepped in, and probably still steps in, and we're going to get to that too. Stepped in and lashed out. So, you know, and I don't want to, okay, so let me just preface by saying, Yes, yes. So someone here is saying that they were told that they have a deep trauma that they have suppressed, but they can't remember it. And this often happens. And this is what I was just about to say, that I wanted to preface by saying that, I don't want to name that tune, like name that trauma, because, everybody's trauma could be different, right? So some people, like I was using the example of death, right? And some people, I know someone personally in my life that when their dad, their father figure died, they don't remember shit for the whole year. What's good, Trisha? They don't remember anything that happened in that year. Like, they have certain little things that they remember. Like, yeah, I remember being at the funeral briefly, right? But everything is a blur. They remember no specific memories. Why is that? Maybe because they weren't really there, right? So, back to that dissociative identity. I just don't want to I'm not going to be on here telling you whether that's a real thing or whether that's your soul protecting you, with your shadow, I'll leave that up to the experts. But I really do feel like there's different parts of ourselves that come in to help us absorb what's going on around us. And just like little children, when we talk about like tarot and growth, spiritual growth, right? There's parts that maybe, we disconnect from our third eye, right? Because children are so good at that. And then as we get older, we kind of lose that ability unless we stay tapped in, right? Well, this is kind of the same thing, because as you get further away from the actual event, there's two ways that you could go about it. Well, there's a few different ways, but mainly two ways. Either you're going to get to a point where it becomes too hard to bear and you want to tackle it face on so that you can have forward movement in your life, shadow work, right? Or you may avoid it and disconnect, kind of like how we do with the third eye. So, I just wanted to mention that, okay? There's also a thing here about I didn't know what to say. This can be the energy of like self-blame, okay, for us not maybe vocalizing it, or maybe when we vocalized it, how people responded. There's a lot of shaming, whether or not this, especially, let's say, and yes, we could be a perfect example of that would be some form of sexual abuse that happens by somebody that is a friend or a relative, but it happens in other ways. And that's why I don't want to pick one particular, because I want this conversation to be something that can assist, many people who've had different traumas, okay? So I just feel like Spirit wants us to be a little kinder to ourselves in regards to what we've been through. Okay, but I also feel like the inner child, we're supposed to be on this new timeline, right? And I feel like the inner child wants to be free again. But to be free again, the inner child got to go in that box. Ooh, right? The inner child got to go in that box. Because I feel like the higher self has digested it. And maybe the divine feminine has digested some of it. And but we all the five parts have to accept that inner healing. Okay? Anything else from this deck, Spirit? Bang. So they're also saying here with this love card that for us to be able to address For us to be able to get what we want, we're going to have to address some things that make us uncomfortable. And it says, divine source is the idea that no person, place, or thing is your salvation, only love itself. Right? And this, this reminds me of, let's say that this was somebody who hurt you, whether it was physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, neglect. We're going to put it all in one pot, okay? Some people feel like, I never got that apology, or I couldn't get that person to love me in the right way. Let's say it was a parent, right? And I'm going to read it again. Divine source is the idea that no person, place, or thing is your salvation, only love itself. And, I feel like Spirit is saying, it sounds corny when they say that the forgiveness is not for them, but it's for you, right? But there's also things that maybe we wanted from these people or experiences that we didn't receive. Okay? And I feel like one of the things that I learned most in therapy was that you're going to have to give yourself some apologies or some I love yous that you didn't receive from someone else. And you're going to have to be good with that so that you can move forward. Because if you're still waiting for an I love you or I'm sorry, you're carrying around a pain that probably this person isn't even paying attention to or experiencing. Okay, and underneath that, you have gratitude. And I feel like the 5 parts of ourselves would feel very grateful to be freed. Fill me with gratitude for all you give. May I be the vehicle for you wherever you go. And I feel like this vehicle, wherever we go, if you think about it, your trauma goes with you too. Right? So, I feel like what they want us to do is, now that we're going into this new thing, this new season, this new timeline, right? That there's also something here about be careful what you're bringing with you, right? So the first card you got out crossed was liberation. And it says, the doubts and fears still come up. You don't believe anymore that they're you, right? So this is the logical mind, the adult mind, knowing that they're not either being, physically abused, emotionally abused, neglected, all the things that I named, and yet still feeling like they can't get past it, or that, and you may not in your 3D every day think about that, but there can be things that trigger certain reactions. And you may wonder, part of our shadow work, and I've been saying this for like 4 months on this channel, is that every time you get triggered, rather than, responding outwardly, you should be looking at like, when's the first time you felt like that? And that's where the seed is, right? But there's certain things, like let's say, you may not encounter situations every day that are gonna show you like the third rail, that main trigger, right? It may only come up once in a while, right? So for instance, if you were a feminine, I'm gonna use the feminine for a minute. If you were a feminine that, what's good, Tara? That in your childhood, you saw a lot of women being physically abused, beaten, or whatever. And there's certain instincts, I already spoke about the fight or flight, some people are going to fight automatically. Some people are going to run away. Other people are going to be frozen. And depending on your method, you could encounter that same thing later. So what am I saying? Let's say that you were a child that had seen a lot of that, right? And you could be an adult. You could be an adult now. Let's say you go to the train station and, for whatever reason, you could have a child with you. So that way, like, I'm trying to set it up so that way you see that it's like a similar situation, right? You have a child with you, small child, maybe the same age you were when you experienced that, right? Visually. And and this happens in major metropolitans. There could be somebody that's disturbed on the platform and they just come up to you and they attack you for no reason, which this actually has happened several times in New York City, right? That person, that feminine, that could trigger exactly what she went through as a child, but now she's seeing it from the feminine's perspective, right? She may freeze up because maybe that's what she did when she was a child. Or she may, run, right? She may attack him because in her mind, she's not in that moment. She's in the moment of childhood. Okay, so what I'm trying to say with this is that, although you may not experience a situation that would trigger you on a daily basis, it's easy for you to think that you have dealt with that until a situation arises. Now, I use an extreme case, but it could be smaller things, right? So let's take that same divine feminine that went through that as a child, right? And maybe she's not even being attacked, right? Maybe a masculine is raising his voice. Maybe he stepped close to her, but he's animated. In her mind, she could be seeing, what she saw as a child, right? So this can make, you feel threatened or whatever. So I feel like what Spirit is saying with this Liberation Cross is that just because you don't think about it every day doesn't mean you're free from it, and that there needs to be some work done, okay? You got ease here. It's easy for me to receive. It's easy for me to receive. It's easy for me to receive. And I feel like what Spirit is trying to say with that is like, right now we're in Pisces season where we're supposed to be digging deep with our emotional blockages, right? To step in to this Aries season, which is like astrologically the new year, in a different frame of mind and not bringing the baggage, right? Next card is right now. Like, they want us to address this right now. Stay in the present and don't get too far ahead of the flow. You'll soon trust that nothing more will come than can be handled each moment. And think about maybe how you viewed things as a child, and and how you view them as an adult. Is not it's not to take away, but you may not feel as vulnerable, right? But a lot of the anxiety that we have about how our life will progress, or about being on our soul path, okay? Part of that is like working through the because you project, right? So you project what you through the experiences that you have. So if you're projecting what you want for the future, but you're projecting it through the eyes of that child that endured something, are you projecting or manifesting a positive thing, or is it subconsciously still allowing that trigger to exist in the new timeline? I hope I explained that right. The next card you have here, sorry. The next card that I have here is Karma, it says. Okay, there's nothing from a past life that can't be addressed in this current life. And see, it's like Spirit is saying, don't put it off anymore. Like, they really want us to be free. Like, we got Pluto, in, I believe, Capricorn or Aquarius right now, or getting ready to go into Aquarius, and they're telling us, don't take it with you. Uranus is in Taurus, like this is time to be freed of all these things. And then you have the awakening, right? Oh my Lord, wake me from life as a let me start over. Oh my Lord, wake me from life as a spiritual sheep. May I hear you through my own instincts and common sense. Okay, I feel like, this whole karma thing. Listen, in many ways, the trauma that we have been through, okay, can have us, wishing that that person that did something to us will receive what they've done to us, right? And I believe in karma. I believe, you get rewarded accordingly to your deeds. And, you may not see the in this lifetime, maybe in another, right? Some of us are paying for some shit we did in the last life, right? But I feel like waiting to visualize someone else's karma is also bringing you karma. Like this is part of the being free, right? So this awakening here, for those of you that have been waiting for, apologies and I love yous, and these are things that are blocking your awakening, and they're also causing you like negative karma because you're projecting something into the what you want from the future, but it's from the vantage point of anxiety based on based on your experiences, okay? I feel like what they're saying is for us to be free. And listen, I have experienced quite a few different types of trauma as a child. Okay. But I feel like what helped me the most was that I went into therapy when I was maybe 25, 26. And I talked about it so incessantly with my therapist that I got to the point where I could talk about it matter-of-factly, like I was talking about going to the supermarket. And believe it or not, that shit helped me tremendously because it wasn't a dirty little secret anymore, or I was able to express those inner thoughts. And, some people don't like therapy, but for me, I feel like there's nothing more freeing than saying those things, whatever they may be, to someone who doesn't know you, has no personal judgment of you, and being able to walk away from that without having to worry about what that person thinks about you. So just for me, it was great, okay? You got Merkaba activation, transcendence, ascension. You are rising up. And I feel like this is why Spirit's like, no today. No today. Because, the clocks went forward, right? I feel like this is really the beginning of the year. And in addition to that, they're like, it's got to be now. Like, we can't take it with us any further. Like, it's been choking us. And it's also the people that are refusing to, like, sorry, I got a hair touching me. Refusing to want to look in those places. It's because these are the people that are having trouble changing their frequency because they're scared, okay? And it's okay. We're all going to be scared in certain portions. But it's what you do with the fear. Do you let it, freeze you, or are you willing to challenge that part of yourself? And now I'm also hearing that there was times where the inner child felt unprotected. Unprotected, they said. And by you taking on the willingness to release those things, it's like you're protecting the inner child. You're healing the inner child, okay? So you're not just doing it for you right now, but you're also doing it to give that to the inner child, okay? You have Anunnaki light codes, and it says energetic shift, new information, end of cycle. They want us to get a new perspective, okay? Hangman, all right? End of a cycle. It's over. It's already passed. And for us to go into this new frequency, this new timeline, like we can't energetically carry that with us. Earth star activation, anchoring, grounding action, Isis energy, right? And we've been talking about the divine feminine returning. Okay? We're going to be getting to the root of things. I really feel like the divine feminine is going to be the pillars. These people, you know, us, those that are going after this ascension, this deprogramming, this reprogramming. Like, we have to be solid. This is why they're telling us to anchor, because we're going to be leading others, okay? I'm going to ask angels today, because I feel like this is a subject that, you know, is something. You know, and some people, you know, look at, you know, they could be diagnosed with mental illness, and there are things that, you know, chemical imbalances and such, right? But I also feel like a lot of those things are brought on by sometimes us not dealing with those inner things, okay? So, like, I'm not trying to play a doctor or anything. I'm just saying, like, we really need to look in those corners, because some of the things that have been holding us back, they live there. Anything else from this deck? And, you know, we have to be compassionate. We need to be compassionate with ourselves, okay? As we're going through this healing, the situation will improve. You see how she's like rising up? Okay, you see how she's swimming with looks like dolphins. Okay, I feel like those are sentient beings. Okay, they communicate through sound waves, like telepathy kind of, okay? So I feel like, you know, for us to be able to hear this new frequency, we still got to purge, and this will actually help us, okay? All right? You have no here. Some of you have been resisting looking in this box for a long time. Look at this beautiful heaven. Look how she's stuck here. The card says no, right? So this could be the thing that's holding you back. I also feel like many people who've gone through sexual abuse, per se, I'm just going to use that as one example, could feel like, you know, I didn't say no, or my no wasn't heard. Date rapes, all kinds of things, okay? I feel like, you know, try to be compassionate with yourself, because remember what I was saying about people's reactions: fight, flight, frozen, right? And in that moment, you were doing the best that you could under the circumstances, whatever the abuse may have been, whatever the trauma may have been. Right? And maybe your inner child wants to help you learn how to say no more. You know, I just did a divine feminine reading last week talking about how we were programmed as certain responses. That's also part of the problem for feminine, right? We're supposed to be, polite and agreeing. And listen, this doesn't only apply to the divine feminine. There's a lot of masculines out here, okay, who have been through, the same types of abuse, whether sexual or otherwise. And they're carrying the same scars, but they may exhibit them differently. Now I'm hearing the teach me how to love, right? So some of it is their trauma too, their abuse, getting the tears beat out of them. Like, don't cry, right? Right? Or incorporating, sexual abuse as a child. And for a young boy, maybe asking himself, am I gay? Or because I got an erection, am I gay? That's a physical response. Women, same question, right? There's been instances, of women feeling ashamed because, at whatever age they were, experienced some type of sexual abuse, they may have had a physical reaction and they could feel as if, what does that mean that I enjoyed it? You understand? So there's a lot of shit here, right? About saying no or wishing they could have said no, or why didn't somebody protect us, right? This is all the things that the inner child is coping with. Helpful people, right? Where were the people then? And you could go through life looking at yourself like, oh, I don't have any, nobody ever helps me. Meanwhile, there could be many people who are willing to help you, but from the perspective of that inner child, you can't see it. Right? Or the inability to ask for help with this helpful people and no, right? Unlikely. Right? This is also reminding me with this helpful people and unlikely, like, are you waiting, for this person to understand? Or let's say it was some type of, if we use the sexual abuse, right? Let's say you went to a family member and said, this and this is happening to me, whether it was, teacher, friend, family member, whatever. And what if you were not believed, right? That happens every day, right? There's so many things, okay? There's also, feeling like that, who would I get help from and who would understand? And I feel like for me personally, therapy helped me greatly because I realized that I wasn't the only person who would experience things like that. Okay, so I feel like there's a lot of things here where Spirit's kind of reminding us like, hey, you cleared out. Yeah, it is heavy, you cleared out that ex, you dealt with the temper, maybe you dealt with this part, but now we get into the meat, right? Now we get into the meat, right? And what we're going to do, are we going to, handle it, look at it dead in the eye, right? Are we going to freeze? Like, what we going to do? Are we going to run? Fight, flight, freeze? And so this is why I'm asking, and this is something that affects all of us, okay? We all have the inner child. We all have some form or shape of trauma, right? We all have a cross to bear, as the saying goes, right? Yeah, we're going to handle it, right? So, we're gonna do it together. And that's what this channel really is about, looking at some painful shit and learning how to, get beyond that stuff so that we could live our best lives, right? We're not about getting stuck any fucking where. Look at this. And it says, last quarter moon in Scorpio, reveal what needs to be seen. You know, what haven't you looked at? Right? What haven't you said? What haven't you verbalized? And if you don't want to say it to somebody else, do a video recording and admit it to yourself. Spend time watching it. Shed some tears if you need to. Right? Journal. There's many ways. Right? Now you have here, trust the universe. First quarter moon in Aquarius, trust the universe, right? And I was talking about us being on this new Aquarian timeline, and they're telling you, you know, we know you haven't felt strong enough in the past, but you are no longer in danger. Like that season has closed out. Now it's about whether you want to be permitted to be free. And only you can give yourself that freedom. You see what I'm saying? Okay? You have here, know you are loved, new moon in Libra, right? And, you know, trauma affects people in different ways. And I would like to say, I feel like most people, even if they've had a good life, could say that, you know, in some part of their childhood, they felt, you know, blocked or unloved or whatever, right? For whatever reasons, by, you know, not to say your whole entire family, but there could have been one person that made you feel like that. There could have been many more than that, right? Depending on the level of toxicity. And I feel like this blocks us in our adult relationships. This is why, you know, I always told my children, when you get in a serious relationship with somebody, you need to look at what the family traumas are, because that's what's going to be in your relationship. That's what's living in the dirty corners, and they need to know yours, because if not, it's going to be, you know, messy, to say the least, right? New moon in Cancer, relax, right? I'm visualizing somebody chewing their nails. Tension, not sleeping at night. Right? Anxiety. These are where all these things are born. Right? The habits that we create to self-soothe. You can see children do it, you know, adults, maybe it's smoking cigarettes like me, right? But these are things that we do to self-soothe for when we feel anxious. Right? So I feel like Spirit's talking about that. Let me see. Yeah, and this is why. See, Spirit's right on time. Call me back. Look. Keep your heart open. And this is why, because we're about to get all this abundance. We've been talking about it for months. And to receive it, what if you got it and you couldn't feel it? What if you got it and you couldn't feel it? Because all these things had a portion of your heart that maybe is numb or, you know, anxious and won't permit these new blessings to be felt. Okay? All right, last deck, and then I'm going to go into some tarot. Look, wow, 50 minutes, and all I did was Oracle. I'm not going to keep you guys crazy long. And you know what? I still owe my YouTube members and a Patreon members another video. But let me tell you, this weekend, my allergies, first off, I recorded them yesterday for the weekly. If you wait till you see the weekly, I look a hot mess. Okay, that's how bad my allergies was. But I will do it. Okay, it may be tonight. All right. Okay. So the first card that came out was community. And they're talking about us, gang, about how we, have a safe place to work together. And even though we may not all see each other face to face, right? But energetically, we're working on this together. And you're not the only one. There's a mass awakening happening. Okay? And I just want you guys to know, this is why I'm here. This is why, a lot of the other, I'm not going to say all of them because, we're also seeing some levels of some toxicity, right? But there are a lot of readers who are trying to get to the work. Okay, and we're starting to make our communities where we could feel supported and know that this is a safe place, okay? I feel like also, it's almost as if the divine masculine within, the divine feminine within, the higher self, the shadow, they're like all in agreement. Like, okay, we cleared out a lot of the closets. We got to go get the kid. Where's the kid? Where's the kid? Rest and rejuvenation. Okay, as we've been clearing out all the cobwebs, right? We're starting to feel where those things are, right? And then door to value in reverse, right? I said it already. Like, as we're receiving these abundances, we can't feel it, right? Wouldn't that be fucked up? If all your blessings came in and you couldn't understand it, couldn't feel it, couldn't recognize it. And we don't want that because the sun is here. It's ready to happen. All right. And whether you're a feminine or a masculine, I mean, it says, man holding a heart, but it's basically saying that, we're going to be wanting to come into unions now, and our partners are going to want to come into unions with us. Right. But we might be blocked because of something that happened to us. Okay. We're always talking about the work that we have to do, our own shadow, which is absolutely our own work. But there are things and situations that may have been out of your control. And if you're still hurt from those or have numbed a part of yourself, your third eye may miss something that's coming in for you. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. So for the divine masculine, okay, man holding a heart. Okay. And I feel like the masculines, a lot of times the way they deal with the trauma, okay, is like they take their heart in it. I mean, their heart out of it, right? So they become very physical, right? And they, like, let's say it, for instance, I'm going to use the, sexual abuse, right? Or molestation, for instance, right? And the masculine may feel like he has to be promiscuous with many partners, many feminines, to make him feel as if he's not attracted to same sex, right? Or some of them become, they are attracted to same sex, but now they have the question of whether they would have been if they hadn't been, molested or whatever, right? Or let's say, the divine masculine goes through heartbreak very early age, and it taints his view of feminines, and then just goes on like a breaking heart spree, right? So it's as if they're saying, like, the divine masculine removes his heart when he's hurt to protect the inner child, right? And the divine feminine, woman holding a coin, she does it too, but she's putting value on her physicality, okay? Look where the coin, the lock is, or the coin, right? I'm seeing it like a lock, right? So, like, she puts value on the honey pot, basically, because she feels like it's a tied to her value. Like, she's also not using the heart. Like, but we may do it in very different ways, right? So I just feel like what they're highlighting, that for us to really finish up this ascension, we need to And we never finish because you always continue, right? Until you're gone. But we need to deal with some things that we didn't want to deal with before. Can we equal out the likes, please? It would be greatly appreciated. All right, so I'm going to throw a couple, I'm going to throw some tarot. Spirit, what do you want us to know? Wow. What do you want us to know about the inner child work and trauma, okay? All right. I'm not even going to pull any more tarot. We're just going to talk about this and I'll clarify a couple things here. Okay, 111. So the first card out was the Hierophant. And I got to say, they're saying that, you know, in some cases, religion, right, was used to abuse people. Okay, let's think about, you know, what was happening with the little kids and the ones with the collars. We're not going to, you know, name names or, you know, right? And how, you know, a lot of these children went to their parents and maybe were not, and they were not believed because, you know, how could you say that of a man of God, right? There was that whole thing, right? There's also this Hierophant is representing, you know, spirit wanting us to stay pure of heart and have hope and faith, right? Right? Some of us have spiritual gifts or jobs that have to do with healing. Like you could work in a group home, you could be a therapist, you know. But the whole point is like you know, we're gonna have to do it. Spirit saying, like, because when you see the Hierophant, know that there's a structure. There's something there that has to be structured, right? Why is this Hierophant here? I feel like when we have experienced these traumas, and I'm going to talk to the Divine Masculine for a minute. When we experience these traumas, you know, you got the Hierophant and the Devil here and the Two of Wands with a choice needing to be made. And this feels like, you know, the angel on your shoulder and the devil on your shoulder, okay? This is a spirit saying this is why we have so many young men incarcerated. Because they have traumas that they haven't healed. Okay, this is also, you know, even to the feminines having to discern, you know, which decision to make. Okay, bad boy syndrome, like, you know, you've been through a lot of things and then you find yourself, you know, drawn to people that aren't good for you, and you may wonder why, but it could be an active choice, okay? Not because you want that, but because it's a way of maybe punishing yourself because, you know, you felt like, where is it? You felt like you should have said no, right? Or you're waiting for someone to say, you know, that they see you and what happened to you was real. Like there's just so many ways that when we don't look at the trauma, it abuses us. Okay? Temperance on the bottom of the deck, a need for healing. The Lovers is here, Spirit. Why? Now, the Lovers represents a choice in tarot, right? But it also is talking about relationships. And then you got the Three of Pentacles here crossed, because it's fucking up our perceptions of what we want, what we need, right? Who we should be collaborating with. You got the Knight of Cups, okay? It's also getting in the way with accepting a cup. It's also getting in the way with us jovially enjoying our life, okay, because of the anxiety and the trauma, right? You got the Nine of Wands here, Spirit. Why? One more. So you got the Nine of Wands here, the wounded warrior. Okay, this is how we walk around with our wounds. Okay, we could be carrying flowers, but we not only internally may see ourselves in the mirror like that. This is why, so many people, especially, feminines, they may not like the way they look because they're looking at their flaws or with their imagined flaws. But it's like all the trauma, right? Because there's a need to heal, okay? But you might have wanted to block somebody, and this reminds me of situations where you can't block them, where it's a parent, where it's a family friend, where it's a relative, where it's somebody that you wish you could fucking block, right? Or you wish you could get away from them. Or maybe the only way you could get out of the situation is because you had to be, 18 and move out on your own or whatever. Like I moved out, I was like 16. Okay? Because for me personally, that's what I needed to do. Okay, you got the Magician here. One more, please. Right, so these are the predators, okay? The people, the attackers, the people who have transgressed us. The experiences that we've endured. Okay, people don't wear signs that say, I beat the shit out of my wife or my kids, or I'm a child abuser, right? They don't come fucking labeled, right? It's a sneaky energy, right? And you have the King of Wands here. Okay, and there's something here, masculine or feminine, about coming to adulthood and feeling more empowered because you feel like I'm not that little kid anymore. You can't do that shit to me, right? But it could be a false bravado, right? Because as soon as somebody comes with the similar fucking traits, right? Controlling traits or even, they might say a phrase or something like you feel triggered by it, or you feel, unempowered, or you feel angry. There's so many, a range of emotions, right? And it's because you haven't really cleared it out with the Seven of Swords at the bottom of the deck, right? There's a little bit of self-deception there, right? And then there's also people who lied and they're sitting in your fucking face on Thanksgiving, right? And they're acting like they didn't do shit, right? And maybe because the family, you have to, So I feel like Spirit's like, we gotta look at what we've been carrying. And then what comes out next is the Emperor. And, we want to be the Emperor, right? But to be the Emperor of your own life, you have to do some shit. Right? And what comes out again? The Nine of Wands. The Nine of Wands, which was just here. Same card. Right? So we want to be the Emperor. Right? But we got the Nine of Wands. And let's just say, because some of us do get to Emperor, even with the trauma, even with not looking at it, right? But then those are the same people who are going to abuse that power. Those are the people who grow up and become the people they so much didn't want to, right? And the like I said in the beginning, the feminine and the masculine, they may handle it different, right? So the masculine in one instance could be saying, I don't want to be like my dad and end up just like their dad. Or I don't want to be like my mom, right? For the ladies, and end up just like that. Or some version of, exactly what you didn't want. And now let's look at manifestation and how we call in what we most think about. So you could have made yourself a promise, like, I promise that what happened to me ain't gonna happen to mine. And you think about that shit so much that that's exactly what happens. Because you weren't willing to deal with it. And so here we are. This is what the fuck Spirit wanted to talk about. 4 of Pentacles, coming out cross. Are we blocking ourselves? Because it means we have to address some things, maybe outwardly, maybe inwardly, that scare us. 4 of Pentacles crossed. So we don't want to go back there because somebody lied on us, or we lied because it was easier than fucking saying the truth and dealing with that, or they're going to call us liars, right? So there's so many reasons, right? Some of us didn't listen. In my own case, I didn't remember abuse till, a little older, right? I mean, there were other things that I did remember, but certain things that I didn't, right? And this is here with the 7 of Swords and the Star, right? So you've been holding back and maybe lying to yourself about why you've been holding back on getting your soul path. But maybe it's because something happened to the inner child, and the inner child is afraid to take the journey. And the rest parts of you are like, let's go. But there's a need. What did I say? Where's the kid? Where's the kid? 6 of Pentacles. We got to lift the kid up. It's coming out crossed. The kid is coming out crossed. Feeling like nobody protects them, or nobody came for them, or nobody helped, or nobody's going to lift them up. Still waiting for mommy or daddy, or maybe not recognizing it's time for their own self to fill in that cup, okay? They may not even see themselves as the adult, right? And then you got, that's what's holding back the new beginning, right? And some of us may not even have opportunities to have conversations because these people could be deceased, right? Or it could have been somebody that you lost, that you love. But we need to put this to rest, because it's blocking our passions and being able to feel the blessings of life. It's also causing us all types of fucking anxieties, fucking up our perception of how we see ourselves and our experiences, all right? We're even could be manipulating ourselves out of this bright new chariot and our soul path that we're supposed to be following. We could be missing opportunities because we're stuck in the illusion of what happened to us before and the old heartbreak. Okay? But look what's at the bottom of the deck. We want to go to calmer waters. Okay? We want to have those healthy boundaries. The universe wants to help us with the star. Right? So support that helpful people. The support is the other parts of yourself, your soul tribe, like we have here, right? Coming in to assist. But now we got to take up the charge. Spirit, can you show me? I knew that. I knew that. I knew that. First card came out. Great fortune. And that would be the blessing. To be freed is the great fortune. Occupation. Some of you's picked your occupations because you may not even realize. Doctor, lawyer, therapist, right? It might have been because you wanted to help the underdog, the person that was small. And it's probably based in feeling like you wish you had more power as a child. Great fortune, Spirit. Some of you may look at sex as something that's dirty, or you may judge yourself by, your relationships because of something that happened that was a secret, or something that you saw your parents doing in regards to like cheating or things like that. And it could have tainted the way you look at relationships. And they want us to free ourselves of that. Occupation, Spirit, why? Retaliation, punish, payback, okay? This may be, like I said, wanting to cathartically, subconsciously and cathartically, help others in that situation. But it's also like, for me, when I would say some of the things as a child that I experienced, and I was trying to get believed and people didn't believe me, that as an adult, you know what I'm saying, I was very hung up on people seeing the good in me, because they were always telling me I was going to be bad, right? But I realized at a certain point that I was letting that eat me up. You know what I'm saying? Because who gives a fuck what they think, if I'm good or I'm not good? Like, you understand? Because I am good. And why do I have to prove it to you? And that was where I had to get. But it took me a long time to realize that I was still kind of subconsciously seeing myself through their eyes, or waiting for their approval, right? Message. Meeting escapade, right? And I feel like, they're telling you to converse, or to, some of you, they're saying therapy. Some of you might go to a group, like a group setting, or maybe we're doing it here. But there's a need, even if you have to do it with a video camera and just yourself, there's a need, okay? It says vacation, hideaway, adventure. I also feel like the inner child wants to be freed. Like, they want to be able to have adventure. They want to be able to feel, and see the colors of life. But I don't know if we want to be hiding away things right now. Okay, you got despair as the other card that came out. Okay, despair. Right? So a lot of the low points in your life, it wasn't the things that was presently happening to you. It was that they were triggering. So let's say you go through a breakup with a boyfriend. That could have been, painful. But what could have been more painful is that it reminded you of an experience that you had earlier. Here's triggers in reverse. Me, no, I'm not triggered. I'm not triggered at all. Crickets, silence. You see what I'm saying? Then at the bottom of the deck, you got gift and child. Look at that. It would be a gift to the inner child. Okay? Show me, Spirit. Right? Drastic, extreme, harsh, cut off. How many of us were not permitted to speak? Or, children to be seen, not heard, had no place to go, right? Verge, about to reveal, confess. How many people, could have went home and it was about to tell their parents something, and just the way their parents addressed it, they knew better. I've been there. Right? So, Spirit's telling us to let it go. Get it out. Okay, some of you, you may not want to go to a physical therapist. You get some online therapy. They're doing it now. However you feel, you can address it. But Spirit's like, don't carry it anymore. Okay, it's time to let it go. All right, I am going to get a postcard from Spirit. We're going to get up out of here. All right, and leave the comments, about what you think about this. And if you'd like to me to do more videos about this kind of stuff, because I feel like they want us to expel. They said expel. They want us to expel this energy, that it no longer belongs with us. Thank you, Spirit. I'm not going to stay on too much longer. And it says, dearest you, there are times when loss is a part of life. Sometimes loss is welcome, like when you leave a situation not in alignment with your highest good. Sometimes a loss is sudden and painful, like when a loved one crosses over to our dimension. Regardless of the nature of the loss and your control over it, your experience is asking to be acknowledged. Tears are necessary, as is grief. When you repress the natural expression of loss and try to move on quickly, the unprocessed pain haunts you into destructive ways. We don't want that for you. Instead, let your heart break open wide, feel the loss and integrate it. See the beauty that was, the lessons learned, and know that as you let go of what has passed, ever more of you remains. It gets better. We promise. Your heart expands with more compassion for the world than ever before. Love heals all. We are loving you, sending love always and forever. First off, do you see how Spirit is? Out of all the cards that came out, they're telling us that it's going to get better, that we're going to get better, and that we just have to let it out, that we need to cry. We need to expel so that we can be freed, so that we can be liberated. All right? So that's pretty much what I have for you guys. I'd just like to say thank you to my returning subscribers for coming through and spending a little time with me. And if you're a new viewer and you felt I resonated with you, I'd love for you to become part of the Lovely Soul family. Listen, I'm giving you all a virtual hug today, all right? Know that I really, I carry y'all in my heart, all right? So I'm wishing you light and love and blessings on blessings. Namaste, gang. Bye.